to the cloud. There we go. Sorry, I missed that part. The only two recordings we have are the Le Puy and the Bay Circuit Trail, but I put them on our YouTube channel.
I have, I had downloaded a copy, I think, of the planning, packing, prepping.
Oh, great.
So
okay, good. So we could add that one too to the YouTube channel. So those are up there. You can just search for Boston American Pilgrims, and you can watch them on YouTube now. Woohoo! So that happened today, and we'll add the other one. There is going to be a St. James Day gathering. It looks like it's going to go ahead in South Bend, Indiana. A mini gathering, not the whole full-blown programming thing that we usually do in March. But for St. James Day, July 25th, it's on the American Pilgrims page, americanpilgrims.org, under where it usually says gatherings. It says events and then gatherings. So if you are interested in feeling up to and able and willing to move around the country a little bit, July 25th, 26th, I think it is, in South Bend, Indiana. So I'll throw that out there. And we have two more talks that we've actually figured out what we're talking about. Nancy's going to do the Ignaciano, right, Nance, next 2 weeks from now? Okay, so we're going to talk about the Camino Ignaciano, which Nancy's done.
Which I can jump in for 1 sec, please. So many of you are veteran walkers. Like I would never recommend the Camino Ignaciano as your first Camino. Just my opinion, but for those of you who have walked and are looking for a deeper spiritual, sort of more structural type of Camino, it doesn't go anywhere near Santiago, but it's pretty cool and celebrating its, the 500th anniversary this year. So there you have it. Okay, goodbye.
It's not a new idea. It's 500 years old, but nobody ever hears about it because nobody's made a movie yet. So the Ignaciano
the Ignaciano lease is not 500 years old. The Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, is 500.
The Jesuits,
and it's the walk that Loyola took 500 years ago, which was recreated about 8 or 10 years ago. So that's it's growing.
So tell people where it starts and where it ends.
I keep muting and unmuting. It starts up in the Basque Country. So for those of you who went up and over Saint-Jean, it comes from a little bit north. It crosses the Camino in just outside in Navarrete, just outside of Logroño, and then it follows the Rio Ebro, which is a Camino route to Santiago going northwest till it hooks up to the Frances. So it goes counter. You're swimming upstream, if you will, even down towards Barcelona, where Ignatius couldn't get in because of a pandemic, a plague. So he ended up in Montserrat, if anyone's been to Barcelona, that gorgeous monastery outside of Barcelona, and then Manresa, where he wrote his spiritual exercises. So it's about a 4-week walk, 375 miles, something like that.
And then Montserrat straight up. So that's going to be in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks after that, I think April 12th, is my friend Stacy Wittig, who's a chapter coordinator in Flagstaff, is going to be talking about a domestic pilgrimage in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Way. And it goes from one Catholic shrine to another. And it's signposted, but they are working on making that more mainstream, I guess is a good word, but they're working on the infrastructure for that. And she did it in November, and she just was back to work on that infrastructure, and she's going to come and talk to us. Stacy's written a couple of 3 really, really wonderful spiritual walking guides, so that not only does she tell you how to get from A to B, from Lourdes to Saint-Jean, from Lyon to Santiago, etc., but it's a spiritual meditation while you're walking. So Stacy Wittig, W-I-T-T-I-G, is going to be with us in 4 weeks to talk about the Wisconsin Way. And if you have other questions, Stacy's done, I don't know how many, 10 Caminos. So join us for those too. So that's what we've got coming up in terms of housekeeping. So I wanted to play for you. I was talked a little bit about John in Santiago, but he is the organist at the cathedral. But he writes a lot of guidebooks that you might have all seen, and he's part of the Confraternity of St. James. And he did a little promo piece for American Pilgrims, and it goes for me to part of what we talk about when we talk about how do you process your Camino, because John packed up his life and moved to Santiago. Some people do. We can't all do that, but that was his way of doing that. And so he's in Santiago. He writes, he walks, he talks, and he plays the organ. Drinks a little scotch from time to time too. So he has done a little promo piece, but I think it's an important piece about why we do what we do with American Pilgrims, and what we can encourage other people to do as well in terms of getting back to Camino feeling. So I'm going to do my best to share the screen and the sound here. So give me 1 second. I have to go find it. And I have to do that part. I have to make this screen little. It's just like crazy. I think I'm not trying to do this on my phone. No, why can't I get over there? There we go. Guys, somebody will have to tell me when they actually see something worth seeing here. Okay, here's John over here. And I worked with John on the Camino Finisterre and Murcia guidebook. He wrote the words and I took the pictures. So, got words and sound and everything there, guys? Or yeah?
Hello, everybody. This is John in Santiago. This has been a very difficult year for the Communal. I'm standing here in the Plaza Obradoiro, and there's not one pilgrim. But we hope the pilgrims will come back later this year and beyond. They can only do so if the Camino is open. The albergues are open, the Camino infrastructure is ready, and many pilgrims are asking, how can we help? Well, I'll tell you what I've done. When I learned that the organisation American Pilgrims on the Camino last year gave $55,000 to Camino projects, I've decided to join and make a donation to their grants fund. Let's look at some of the projects they funded last year. Weren't these wonderful projects, Camino projects funded by American? Your funds are all the more needed. Every penny of your membership subscription or donation to the American Pilgrims Grant Fund goes to help Camino projects. I've given, I'm asking you to give too. Here's how you do it. Thank you very much.
Please help me, help me, help me.
Cool. So it's freezing on me.
Hello, everyone.
Stop,
This is
John. No more, John. All right, you guys. I'm not sure what you can see or hear.
We see a blue screen with Albergue Santa Cruz, Sahugun, and their vital funding for the new plumbing. It stopped in the middle of the video. That's all as far as it got.
It froze. Okay, because it says to me, meeting not responding.
Well, the video got that far.
That's a bummer.
The video got that far. The audio continued to the end.
we complete?
Lisa, are you there?
I'm here. Okay, so I see the screen with the blue screen. Is that what you see? Is that where it stopped?
The video stopped there, but the audio continued all the way to the end.
Okay, don't you love Zoom? Because it stopped, it said to me, I could see the whole film, but anyway. So you guys got the idea, right? And you met John, and all I can see is Nancy. And there's everybody's back. Okay, so I don't know if any of you, has anybody actually met John in Santiago?
I have.
Yeah, he's so cool. So in terms of what's going on over there, when people say, you know, I got to go on the Camino because they need my money, just send them your money. They don't need our bodies right now. They need our money. But this is just another way to stay connected to the Camino and be able to continue to share that. And there's a couple other organizations. Rebecca Scott has Peaceable Projects. But in terms of continuing your Camino and being able to continue doing that, that's one way we can do that. So when we have our workbook, I think everybody got it, even if it was a little bit screwy in terms of having some weird blanked out things. Cheryl Grassman was the past president of American Pilgrims, and she put this program together in 2017, and I was at the coordinators meeting then in the following year. And I like the way she did it in terms of why you go and then what happens when you get back. So I'm going to have to try this screen sharing thing again, but not necessarily with video. In terms of what we do to get ready to go is not usually, and this is why I like to do this with people who haven't gone yet. Can you guys, that's the workbook. Can you guys see the workbook? It's so weird because I can't see what you guys say. Somebody, feedback? What can you say?
Nothing right now.
Okay, screen sharing is stopped as the window is closed. Okay. Going backward and forward here. Because I took it offline so I wouldn't have to share it from the web. So here it is. Can you guys see the returning home? The journey continues?
Nope.
No.
Not yet. Okay. Oh, we got somebody in the waiting room, Karen. Can we let him in? Geraldo? How's that? Can you see it now?
No, got it now.
Yay, thanks guys. All right, so see if I can make that full screen, and I'm going to close the little chat so that I can actually see my own screen. So the way that Sharon put this together is in terms of how we get ready, and I'm going to try to make that full screen, but I don't know where, and I don't want to mess it up. That how we go about getting ready to go should include how we go about ready to come back. Because, you know, when you get ready to go on a trip, you clean out your fridge and you stop your mail and you do all those kinds of things to prepare to come back. But you don't necessarily prepare for, if you go on a beach vacation and you come back, you can pretty much expect your life to look a lot like it looked when you left, right? So this is a very different journey. And certainly I don't call it a vacation. So she put it together in terms of how do we look at going and coming back. So like I said earlier, it's very easy to get people together for a talk. You know, we had people hanging off the clothes racks at LL Bean and Mashpee to talk about gear. it's very easy to get people together to talk about gear. What kind of backpack do I need? What kind of shoes do I need? What's it going to cost me to go? What's a per day or per diem cost? How many miles do I need to train? What books are the best? What apps are the best? What kind of technology do I need? How do I use my phone? It's very easy to get people interested. And, how do I get there? What's the, train, plane, buses, automobiles? Am I going to get bed bugs? I love this one, huh? You can read my bed bug story on my blog, but we don't necessarily prepare for how our lives are or are not going to change when we come back from this. And we prepare in terms of a lot of resources. And not just financial resources, not just time off from work resources, but emotional resources and preparing our families for our journey. And, we find people to watch the pets and all those things that we prepare for. And for some people, they think when they leave, it's a once in a lifetime thing, but we don't spend enough time preparing for our return. So that's, like I said, that's why I really love doing this with people who haven't gone yet. So these are Cheryl's thoughts about this too, that why don't we do it that way? Why do we used to have 6,000 people or 2,000 people on the Facebook page. Now there's 30,000. There's such a focus on doing the right way. And this is, in a lot of ways, this is an American phenomenon. You don't hear that so much when you sit with a bunch of French people and talk about what you might want to do. But you do hear it a lot with Americans. What's the right way to do this? The right boots, the right this, the right that. And, you hear this sometimes, the Camino will provide. Well, yes and no. And you have to be open to receiving the Camino's gifts. So when we're going, what are the things we want? So Cheryl looked at it this way. You're looking for some time away. You just, if you watch the movie The Way, you might want to stop smoking. You might want to lose weight. What are the things that we are thinking about? Why are we doing it? And sometimes people say, you say, well, I'm going to go walk across Spain for 6 weeks. And they'll go, so why? Why are you going to go do that? And sometimes that's a really, really hard question to answer, because it's there, because I want to walk to the apostle, because I am grieving, because whatever that thing is, finding your why can be sometimes an overlooked part that you gear up for it for so long, literally and figuratively. And I have met people on the Camino that they decided to go 2 days before, or they heard about it 2 days before, and they just decided this is something I need and want to do. But for a lot of people, particularly if you're coming from far away or you have to bank your time off or whatever it is, it's a long time coming. And now we've been forced into a holding period and a holding pattern. So it's an even longer time coming. And, all of the things that can build up in your mind. Like I said, my son got his driver's license today, and for him, the fear and anxiety leading up to that got worse the longer we had to wait, because they shut all the RMVs, and then he couldn't get an appointment, and he had to wait 6 more months. And the longer he had to wait and the longer it got put off, the more anxious he got about what was going to happen.
Lisa, could I just interject something?
Sure, absolutely. Please do. Because I want people I can't see anybody, but please, everybody hop in when you can.
Especially speaking to what you're speaking to right now. People think that, about walking the Camino, I haven't trained, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, and whatever. But we had really, and this is a true story, we had really good friends of ours who lost their daughter at 40-something years old, left 3 children, and she took her own life. And my friend said to me, she said, Karen, I don't know what to do with myself. I want to walk myself off a cliff. This was the mother of the child. And she said, I don't know what to do. And and I said to her, you need to walk the Camino. You need to walk the Camino. And so she did that. And she and her husband, because they were so despondent about losing this child, they walked the Camino, and they have done it several times since then. And it changed their life. And I think that people don't really realize that there are things on the Camino, and I don't even know how to verbalize it or anything, but when you walk the Camino, I mean, I walked the Camino because there was a major thing going on in my family's life, and I didn't know how to deal with it and all that. It wasn't a death, thank God it wasn't that, but it was something else. And so, wow, people, you can walk the Camino. And I have a friend of mine right now whose mother is 90 something years old. He's 60 something, lives in the South End of Boston. And he said to me, not too long ago, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do when my mother dies. And I said to him, I know what you're going to do. You're going to walk the Camino. And so, I mean, I say to people all the time, don't overthink it. Don't do all of that. Just do it. Anyway, sorry. I went off on a tangent. There you go.
No, I
I'm
think
done with
this is part of your coming back, and we do talk about this later in the workbook, is mentoring and encouraging and educating people that this is an option. So for some of us, this is how we deal with not being there and being here, is to do this kind of outreach and education. And so yeah, that's, I think, a really important part of it. And you know what, this part, some have, and if you guys can't see my screen or something at some point, just somebody has to yell at me because I can't see what you say. I don't believe nobody has any expectations. I honestly don't believe this, because in order to go on the Camino, you have to at least put on a pair of sneakers. You have to at least throw some stuff in a bag. You have some sort of expectation that this is not going to be an all expenses paid exclusive cruise. So I don't know. Does anybody disagree? Does anybody think anybody actually has zero expectations when they leave? Because to me, I don't know about that one. I think at some point people have, whether it's an anxiety or a worry or an exhilaration, there's some kind of an expectation out there. And you will meet the people out there that are really out for a good time and adventure. For a lot of Europeans, it's a annual 2-week thing, a walk, whether it's a walk, a bike. When I was Hospitalet in Albergo Renero, it was a really busy time in August. And so I thought there was a big fiesta going on. There was no room at the inn, all over town. And one of the Peregrinas came to me on a bike, and she said, I hate to say this, but I don't quite know what to do. I've never stayed in a public albergue before. I've never stayed in a dormitory. I don't know how this works. Can you help me? And it turns out that she was actually a member of European Parliament. She represented the Midlands of Britain, and this was outside of her realm. But every time she got a little break in Parliament, she would rent a bike, have it shipped to her next part where she started the Camino, go over, ride for as long as she could, and then dump off the bike and go back to Brussels to go back to attend to this really important work. And she was actually one of the members of the Trade Commission with Canada. So I said, all right, this is how it works when you're with a whole bunch of people, because she always had a private hotel room. So this was completely outside the realm. And she was such a sweetheart. And she accidentally left her bra behind when she left. She must have had two, right? And I called her because she had given me her phone number. I said, how much would I get on like eBay for the bra of this member of European Parliament? Don't you guys have like tabloids over there in England that love this kind of stuff? Like, wouldn't the Sun pay for this story? But it was just funny. But it was a total, her experience and her expectations and her adventure was very different than anybody else's. So that was her Camino. And, there are actually permanent peregrinos, homeless people who walk the Camino. They've had the same credential for 10 years, and it's about that thick. And that's their way they live on the Camino. And it can be a very cheap way to live. And they're camping and they have dogs and things, but it's a different thing. We all know from the movie, The Weight Loss. And some of us really just need that challenge. And then there are people who are on their spiritual quest, and there are others who don't know they're on their spiritual quest when they leave home, but they might find it on their way. So we talk about all of these different reasons why we go, but then we all have our own different experiences. And some people, really tune into the historic and the lineage of the Camino and are really cognizant of what went on before them, and some blow right by. I remember one day just sitting and watching people just blessed by this really beautiful little grotto church, and I sat there for about an hour. Nobody went in. They didn't, there's a sign said, this is what's here, 14th century chapel. They were on their way. They had a mission, they had their Brierly guide, they were going. So some people don't tune into that, and some people do. The communitas that we're all talking about tonight and experiencing. Some people miss out on that, and some people don't want anything to do with that. If you only stay in a private hotel, you're not going to have that experience. Maybe you don't know you want that experience. And, some people don't feel comfortable with that. They have a language barrier, but, and not every day is all kumbaya and we had a great meal and everybody was happy and you get along with everybody either. Sometimes there's people you really wish were a day behind or a day ahead of you. But these are the kinds of things, the kinds of experiences that all of us who have already been, we already share this in one way or another. And walking in and of itself, as Sick John will tell you, the walking itself is a form of meditation. That we get our dose of nature that we don't necessarily get when we're in the quote real world. And we definitely spend our days with a lot less of our stuff. That feeling of accomplishment that we have or that we don't have, and why, if you had to do something you didn't want to do, if you had to take a train or you had to take a taxi or you had to take a bus, and do you beat yourself up about that? So the demons that we find are tied in sometimes to those expectations that we started with. And we had a whole talk before Christmas about Camino angels, both finding one and being one. So that's part of it. And like I said, those demons are sometimes they're a pain in the neck on the Camino, but they're generally within us, and we bring those with us. Those get packed with us as much as our socks and our water bottle and all that other stuff. Part of the stuff that we take with us is all of these things too. And do those things get left in Spain? Is there an expectation of leaving those things in Spain? And then there's all those things that come at us on a daily basis in our daily lives that sometimes are with us on the Camino. Some of you have walked with family members or spouses, even our kids, that, that interaction doesn't necessarily change. It may not. But those things come with you too. If you go with the same people you're with all the time, those interactions, I see some nods there too. Those interactions come with you too. So if there's something going on that's judgy, or there's, I know the best way to do this, or if you have an issue when you're driving in the car about which way to go, think about what happens when you're walking through town, and do we go this way or that way? And it's magnified, I think. And having lived abroad several times, I think that a lot of these things do get magnified when you're put in a place where you don't necessarily speak the language, that you're dealing with a different system of things, that these internal and external things get magnified. That again, this is the being and accepting of angels. We call them our Camino angels. But there's sometimes this hoping that you're going to come home as a different person. But what happens if you don't? What if the same you comes home? What if you come home and people don't see you as the changed person that you feel like you are inside? What if you don't get that aha moment? What if you're sitting in the cathedral in Santiago and the lightning bolt you had hoped for hasn't hit? Does anybody want to just kind of jump in at this point and unmute yourself and look at this perspective a little bit? Anybody?
So Lisa, I will jump in on this because I think that it's my husband and I have both had COVID, and my husband is he's an Alzheimer's patient. So all of these things are going on. I look at my Camino experience all the time now with my husband Larry. How is our life going on now? Because he's since he is had Alzheimer's and then COVID, it's like he is aged 10 years in like 6 weeks. And so anyway, it's kind of like I look at our COVID, I look at my Camino experience and being with him all during that. And then, you never know what God is going to throw your way. You just don't. And the Camino helps you so much when you walk the Camino. It's like when I walked the Camino and when I was 65, we didn't have any of these things. But what's going on now? But now we do. But now it's helping me. It's helping me to walk the Camino each day. Each day I wake up in the morning, it's like, I don't know what it's going to bring, but I got to do what I got to do. And anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I'm sorry. But anyway, I just.
When you left the first time,
has helped me so much.
When you left the first time, what did you think might happen, or what did you hope might happen? Because you had heard Nancy talk about it, right?
When I walked
the first time, like before
when
you
I
left,
walked Camino first. Right. Well, I didn't have any of the situations that I have right now, but I had, my daughter was going through a rough time, but I just wanted to go out on the Camino and do something that I could do on my own. And I saw Nancy's presentation, which was, do we have the strength to do this incredibly hard thing, which is the Camino? When you start from St. John Pied de Port, it is really hard. Do you have the gumption? That wasn't the word, but to carry on this thing, it was really hard. And but I wanted to say that I did. I was 65 and I did that. Do you have the mental, physical, and moral capacity to follow this way? And it was amazing. It was amazing. And I did it. I was 65 on my own. I bought pepper spray. I had nothing else. And really, it was amazing to carry on. And it took me 35 days. And I did it every day, follow the guidebook, and I did all of that, just following it like, I didn't use it. I mean, Nancy helped me, but she just gave me like, how do I go from St. John Pied de Port to you know, to wherever. But other than that, I just did it on my own. I love that. Just do it on your own. There's no like group, whatever. People say, well, is it open? Is it Camino de Frances open? Yes, it's always open. So it's not like that. Anyway, I'm gonna stop. I'm going crazy.
Lisa,
Yeah.
Mel here. I just wanted to sort of reaffirm what Karen was saying. I think more than anything, I made that Camino hoping that I would get the courage to continue my life on my own, that I had the strength to do it. I knew I had the strength, but the Camino reaffirmed it for me. And I proved it to myself and no one else.
Was it just after you lost your husband, Marianne?
Yes, yeah. I had just lost my husband. I was making a lot of decisions, which I knew I wanted to do, and other people doubted me. And I had to find a way to prove to myself that what I was doing was right for me. And the Camino was one of them. And some of the same people who doubted me, doubt me every time I talk about either doing another Camino or having done the others that I've done and doing Hospitalero with you. It told me that I am capable of doing these things, and I can be a good decision maker. I'm not crazy, and I can live with the life that I have. So
Awesome,
anyhow,
yes.
And walking across Spain was the way to do that, right?
gave me the courage to accept.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to pop in here? So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to
it's-
say, I mean, I think that's an important point. I mean, I think a lot of pilgrims approach the Camino as a way to heal from life's challenges. And sometimes you go over and you realize that the Camino is really there to prepare you for the future challenges that you don't even really anticipate. The only other thing that I'd say about coming home, one of the more difficult things, and I think most of us have probably gone through this, is when you come back from the Camino and maybe you do feel a change, and people will say, how was the trip?
Exactly. We're going to talk a
How
little
was
bit
your
about
vacation?
How was
Yeah,
your
how was your
vacation?
vacation? Exactly.
It was fine. Jane,
I just want to maybe share
share
a
next.
thought. I did my first Camino the year I turned 80. And it was an experience, I guess, a fulfillment of a very long dream, a little seed that had been planted somewhere in my past, reading and conversations with people who had done the walk. And at that point in my life, I said, I want to really celebrate the blessings of my life and what I have, the kind of dream of moving forward. So I started it that year. And as I say, I've only been able to do small amounts of it, and I have 150 kilometers left. But I have found since starting it, and this was 2 years ago in 2017, I started it. So, and missed last year, obviously. But I just want to continue and complete this journey because I find myself drawing on that experience when times get rough. I just.
Oh, it froze there.
My dear sister.
There you go.
And I think angels that we have met, the sense of community and the sense of companionship, you just I find myself drawing on those experiences when I need them. And
That's
it's
true.
something that I would not have missed this for anything in the world. And I'm just hoping that I can complete it and get to the final wonderful event of just having accomplished this and then taking it and sharing it. It is such a gift. So I mean, I just think that anyone who has had the opportunity to do it more than once, I think that's such a tremendous feat. So
Let me ask you-
congratulations to all of
Let
you.
me ask you this, Jane.
Yeah.
You said complete it and get to that final event. If you didn't go back, if you
Yeah.
stopped
I know.
150 miles, kilometers, whatever it is from the end, I can't name too many, although I did have an 80th birthday party for a pilgrim in San Pedro de Rat. Not a lot of people have done 350 miles or kilometers at that age. Would you not be able to feel accomplished enough?
That's a very good question, and I think it's one I've pondered, especially with the COVID, because I was all set to return, of course, this past year, which didn't happen. And I was hoping, okay, this is a new year. Can I do it this fall? I was usually going in all of September. And I have to prepare myself for the event that it may not happen again this year. And next year, I will be 85, but God willing, if my strength and my health allows, I will return. And if not, I think I have to take the gift that was given to me and share it in the ways that I can, grow from it, learn from it, and just be happy with what I have accomplished, because it isn't something I think that we do, but it becomes a part of who we are. I don't see it as oh, good, I just climbed another mountain, or I took another walk, or I did some miles. It's the experience. And it's something that becomes part of who we are, what we've seen, who we met, how we have been treated or treated someone else, the joys and the fears and this was a learning experience for me. I had never done anything, on my own like that for days on end. And so I think there's much to celebrate, whether I guess you get to the end or you don't. It would just be a nice way to complete it, I think.
Jane, I have to say, you have brought all that together tonight. That you brought it all together, and what we're talking about, that we don't know. You walked the Camino, and I walked the Camino. All of us those of us who walked the Camino, and it's just kind of like we don't know how it's going to go. But wow, you just what you just said tonight brought it all together. Not only on the Camino walk, but walk in life. I mean, we don't know how it's going to go, and
No.
Yeah.
right. And so I mean,
right in the introduction in Cheryl's workbook that you all have, page 1, she says, few of us think, been there, done that. Instead, we return home with a desire to find a way forward that preserves the extraordinary experience of the Camino. So, yeah. Sharon Fields?
Yeah, so
see.
Jane, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I was just going to add to Jane that it doesn't end, so
Yeah.
good luck finding it.
Yeah, there's that.
Right,
There's
right.
Right.
I also mentioned I traveled. I did my first Camino as basically I needed to build a new life map. My husband it was a sudden death, so it was completely unexpected. I was not prepared for this, and I needed to find a way forward and map out So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I need to rebuild my life now, and I need to step away from my regular world. So I went on Camino, and I had I was disappointed about at Cruz de Ferro. When I entered the town of Fonsadon, I was ready to go home. I was trying to figure out how I could go home with my dignity intact. Anyway, I had a trip. That was my transformative experience. Was that evening. What I realized is that this is not a thing. Or for me, this is not a you do this, check. This is not a bucket list I've done. This is a process. This is a relearn of how to live your life. For me, the other thing I want to, enough of that, you ladies have covered all of those things, but when I left Santiago, I flew into London to meet my children, and I had the first and only panic attack of my life when I stepped out of Victoria Station after 5.5 weeks of the French countryside by myself, not talking to people, nobody speaking English, and I just went, so it's the sensory overload was absolutely overwhelming for me. I hailed a cab, and I I had just walked across Spain by myself. Okay, so I'm a perfectly capable person, but I crawled into the back seat of that cab and hid my face and just hunkered down so that I couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything. I was so overwhelmed by the input that was coming at me in the modern world. And I think that when it's in a foreign language, you don't see it and hear it. But when it's in English, you try to process it. So that was probably the hardest afternoon of my life, was arriving back into the regular world.
You're not the first one to have that experience, and I'm sure you won't be the last, but I agree, because when it's in another language, you're not taking in everything that's on every TV that you encounter in a bar. You're not hearing everything on the radio. You're not picking up and focusing on everybody's conversation. And then all of a sudden, it happened to me when I got back to Logan Airport. It was like, wow, everybody's so loud and pushing, and yeah, it's really hard. So this is one of the reasons I like to have this workshop with people who haven't gone yet mixed in, because I don't know if anybody ever puts in any guidebook that it's gonna be loud, and these things could happen to you. So thank you for that. So I'm going to move into the coming back. What happens, that everything that we were before we went and everything we've experienced while we were gone is all there. It's all in there. And now we have to figure out how to parse that out, how we are going to communicate that, how we're going to make things work. And for some people, that means I'm chucking it all and I'm going right back, because I can't deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be part of what I left. But not everybody has that opportunity or that desire. So, we have to deal with what we have to deal with when we get there. So everything about how whether you were home for a week or 6 weeks or 10 weeks, it doesn't matter. There has been some kind of a change, because you've undoubtedly spoken to strangers, you've eaten with strangers, you probably slept next to strangers, you've maybe been to Mass for the first time in 2 decades, you've eaten foods you've never seen before. Something has changed in your life one way or another, and it's a real thing. And some people come back and say, I can't sit at this desk anymore. I can't, this doesn't match my my vision of the world anymore. I don't feel like I can be fulfilled doing this anymore. This doesn't match the vision I've developed in the last however many weeks or months since I went on Camino. And that people have sometimes come back and said, I didn't need all this money in the first place. I didn't know I didn't need it, because when I simplified my life, I realized, okay, so we don't need 2 cars and 4 TVs and a huge cable bill. And, I don't need to be working for that thing to pay that thing. And that has been the case for a lot of people. People don't want to re-engage with CNN, and this, of course, was a post-COVID presentation, but I think even more now than before, that there's just so much pain and anguish and angst that it's nothing anybody wants to get back to. And here it is, Sharon, that this sense of shock and even vertigo, and you had that kind of an experience, the speed, the noise, the separation from the natural world that we don't notice if we're never even in the natural world on a day-to-day basis. We don't notice the loss of it because we aren't out in it. And this PCB, I love this, Post-Camino blues. And long trail hikers talk about this too. And there's an article I'll send you in the follow-up material that's recently written about it's post-trail depression. And depression's maybe too hard a word. Blues, depression, doesn't matter. It's an anxiety that comes from having to make decisions every morning other than which of my 2 shirts am I going to put on? Which of these 2 trails am I going to follow this day? What time am I going to stop for lunch? That is very much a legitimate thing that it's experienced by people who have had the opportunity to disengage or unplug. And this is a controversial opinion, but I've seen a huge difference between the first time I served as hospitalero and the second time. And in those 2 or 3 years, I noticed a huge difference of more pilgrims staying in their bunks at night and after dinner with their phone and not engaging with other pilgrims. And that not having had the opportunity to disconnect or not taking that opportunity to disconnect is a detriment to their experience. And I'll just put it out there. I think that that's true. And some of you have walked with kids or are going to walk with kids. I allowed my son to have, I still have it, an old-fashioned iPod that's like that big, and all you can do is put music and stories on it. It doesn't do anything else. So he had some what I call books on tape, audiobooks. But other than that, he wasn't allowed to have games and this and that. And there was a definite withdrawal period even for a young kid, but I think that's, I think it's important. So I do tell people that when we get to the technology part. So people aren't, other than people like that are in this virtual room right now, I think it's very hard to talk to people. It's really hard to explain what it was like to walk over the Pyrenees, or what it was like to, have to walk for 3 days, everything soaking wet, and you got mud up to your knees. That's not within the realm of everybody's experience, or that complete and utter day that everybody gets that, all right, this is just it. I'm laying it all out there. I can't go anymore, but of course you do. That is pretty hard. So I like this a lot. Oh yeah, that sounds, how was your vacation? Sounds great. That's awesome. That's cool. But nobody really is knowing or understanding. So that's another really good reason to, and I'm also, Mary Ellen, very grateful for the Zoom, because we haven't had this opportunity in the past necessarily. We had the gathering. If you get a chance to go to a gathering, I really highly recommend it, because you get 150 people that have this experience, and it's really exciting. There's so much energy that comes at the gathering, and some of you have been and really know what I'm saying here. what's your impression about your pre-Camino life? And one of the things I like to tell people who haven't been yet, and even if you're going on a second or third or fourth Camino, the next time you're leaving, write your post-Camino self a letter. This is what I hope to get out of this. This is what I'm afraid that I'm going to get. This is what I'm worried about. This is what I'm excited about. Write a letter, put it in an envelope, seal it, and leave it on your kitchen table for yourself for when you get back. And then when you're ready, when you get back, open that and let yourself talk to your pre-Camino self. My son and I sent postcards home to ourselves so that, and of course, how long it takes to get the mail from Spain. These things would trickle in after we got home. And when we were able to relive those moments, we would write like things about, oh my God, this was such a stinky albergue. Everybody was, needed a shower, or just silly things, but things we wanted to remember. Or we had the best fresh oysters this day, or whatever it was, or we got chased by 3 dogs. Those things would trickle in every few days, and it was great. And of course, we still have those. So how do we do this? Do we agree? The Camino helps us wake up to what we really want in life. And I wrote down what you said. You needed, Sharon, a new life map. I wrote that down. You needed a new life map. And I, quite frankly, didn't know I needed a new life map when I went on my first Camino, but boy, did I get one. It helps us realize where our life is and where we want it to go. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe that lightning bolt doesn't happen, but maybe it happens years later. Maybe it doesn't really come together or gel for you till later. This idea of discernment, this is a big word for me about Camino. And discernment is really parsing it out and really giving it thought. And what do people miss on the Camino? And what do you want to include into your new life? So this comunitas, okay, that we talked about, the idea of walking out my door right now and walking 15 miles seems absolutely absurd to me, because I'm not that interested in what's 15 miles from me. Now I can get from here to probably, I don't know, Mashpee in 15 miles, which a lot of people would think would be great. I think it's boring. So why don't I do what I did on Camino every day here? Why don't I walk everywhere? Why do I get in my car to go up to the post office? Why don't I keep that going, right? Yeah, Karen?
Lisa, if I could just interject here right now. I met a man on the Camino Santiago when I did that, the big one, from Saint Jean Pied de Port. And I met a man, and he was a young guy. He was in his 40s. And
You froze up.
Karen, you're freezing.
Oh, we lost her.
way
I would just
Keep
mute
going.
and explain.
Okay.
oh,
Okay, are you back?
am I in some?
We lost you. Oh, Nancy, could you send her in the chat for me?
Yeah.
So some people have talked about that sense of accomplishment that you had. I can do this. I can get there. I can walk over the Pyrenees. One of the other words I would put here with accomplishment is resiliency, that you find your own sense of resiliency, of how you can, maneuver and, function in a different situation every day with different people that you don't know, you can't have any control over, because we love to have control over things, right? So the sense of accomplishment that comes through the resiliency, this time spent with ourselves. And some people have a wonderful meditation practice. I'm not so good at that when I'm not on the Camino. the spending time in nature. I try really hard to do this on a regular basis, but depending on where you are, that can be difficult, but it takes a big effort. And I think that maybe this is something that's come through COVID, is that more of us are getting out and exploring natural areas around us that we may have been not really paying a lot of attention to before. The fact that you learn new things, you learn everything from how to fix a blister to how to tie your shoes differently, whether it's language, new words, new foods. We are constantly getting this wonderful stimulus and input on the Camino that we don't necessarily get. And, my little, Spanish a day calendar is not quite the same kind of input and stimulation and learning that I get from speaking Spanish or French all day. The spiritual practice.
Right. So Lisa,
Oh, you're back. Okay, good.
Am I coming through right now?
You are right now. Yes.
All right. So what I was talking about is being part of a thread or whatever you call it. It's just being part of the Camino. Like when you do it, and then when you finish, it's amazing what it does to you in your life. And I don't know if it's hard to go back and realize that, which is why I've gone back so many times. And I go back, but it just brings you home. It brings you home to what's going on in your life, not your life necessarily, but in life in general. Well, how do you do that? I mean, how do you get that back? And how do you kind of like participate in whatever is going on? It's like, everybody is like, oh my God, this is where we are. Yes, this is where we are. So go with it, go with the flow, figure it out. And that's what we have done, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
We're trying. In terms of the practice of spirituality, when you're on foot, obviously you experience the world from a doorstep perspective, literally walking by people's doorsteps. In Spain and in Europe in general, you spend time walking by a lot of churches. Some of them are actually open, but we do that here too, but we don't usually often spend the time. Gee, I think I should pop in that church. I wonder what's in there. I wonder what there's to see. Or, maybe I could go in and light a candle. On a daily basis, that's not part of our day-to-day usually, but why is it on the Camino? So, I try to go to Mass every day on the Camino. I don't go to Mass every day here. So I try to say the rosary on the Camino, but I don't say the rosary when I'm walking around here. Why do those things disconnect here that they don't on the Camino? Always having some kind of, and some of us are planning junkies and anticipation junkies as much as we are, the actual doing. Having something to look forward to is really, really important. And I think that that's part of why some of us keep going and looking for new Caminos like Wisconsin, which I'm really excited about. Stacy has a really good blog post about that too. And here, what have we been doing for the last almost 2 hours? We're telling stories. The basis of human interaction really is storytelling. And on the Camino, you might start telling stories to somebody you've known for 15 minutes or hearing their stories, like it or not, right? And so we don't engage in that kind of storytelling enough, and texting doesn't count for that. The simplification, we've talked a little bit about that. The global community, this is one of the things I miss the most, and this is one of the things I love the most about being a volunteer on the Camino. I'm thrilled. We have London in the house tonight. We have Montreal. We've got Albuquerque. We've got people everywhere bringing together their experiences, and I love that. And I'm glad that because of his Caminos, my son loves this too. He can sit down with kids from anywhere at this point. So I miss that on a regular basis, and it's not part of my everyday life. Again, we talked about the I can do it, the accomplishment. We don't necessarily think that we should go walk up and down a mountain on a daily basis, and engaging with people about these really important self-actualizations and self-knowledge. And again, that word of discernment. And I am watching the clock because I do promise to end on time. Being a Camino angel, as much as experience a Camino angel, is something that some of us really miss. And again, here we are, that lesson of the Camino, the lesson endures, but how we continue the experience is really up to us. And so one of the things that this workbook will help you with, and I will send this out again, is that it gives you some concrete ideas about how to revisit each one of these things. So if what you missed is learning new things, here are some concrete ideas about how to put that into action. I missed the idea of being part of a community. Well, here's some concrete ideas on how to put that into play in your everyday life. And redesigning our life to be what we value. I'm going right back to Sharon's expression of building your new life map and what you want that to be. I love this expression. It's not the road that wears you out, it's the grain of sand in your shoe. Boy, that's the truth, right? It's that one thing that niggles at you all the time that really can wear you down, whether it's the job or relationships in your life that are not serving you well. These are the kinds of things that can wear us down in everyday life. So the part of this to keep going back to is the how. And there are things that we can get a lot of inspiration from. And, going to the gathering is one of those things, but, we can't always do that. I look for writing or other travelers. I think that's part of why we try to connect virtually, whether it's Facebook or what have you. Look for things that are inspiring. So last week there was if you have not listened to the podcast called the Dirt Bag Diaries, are there any other Dirt Bag Diary fans out there? It's really wonderful. And there was one a couple of weeks ago about a woman from Alaska. She was a long trail hiker. She'd done the Triple Crown. She lived in the mountains of Alaska, but she was from Scotland, I think, originally, but she falls in love with a guy on the trail, and he's from Ontario. So eventually she's got to move to Ontario after several years to be with this guy, and she's bereft because of the visa, she can't leave Ontario, and because Ontario's flat, there's no mountains, and and then COVID hits. So she's miserable. She's missing all of the things we just talked about. She's missing her sense of accomplishment. She's missing her sense of adventure. She's missing everything about the planning and the excitement. And how does she and her brand new husband, who's from another country, how do they deal with that? So I listened to that last week and I was like, yes, this applies. So I'll put that link for you. There was a recent Medium article about this post-trail depression and how it's very real and it's not dealt with enough about how do we prepare before we go to do this? How do we prepare for reentry? Astronauts prepare for reentry. And so I thought that was really, really good. If you haven't seen the movie Phil's Camino, highly recommend you watch Phil's Camino. It's made by Annie O'Neill, who's one of the people who was in the movie 6 Ways to Santiago. Another one, if you haven't seen the Camino documentary, 6 Ways to Santiago. Annie made a film called Phil's Camino, and Phil has cancer, and he's told he can't go on a Camino, so he builds a Camino in his backyard. And he starts walking, and he signposts it. So he's reading the Barley Guide as he's walking. And so, you walk this far and you're in Fonte de Bandon. And if you walk this much far, you're in Carrion de los Condes. And he does this. And then he goes into remission. And his doctor says, okay, you can go on the Camino. So he does. And Phil's still around, and he's still pretty cool. He's out on Vashon Island. It's a wonderful movie. So again, that's another place to get some inspiration. So, and I think that we have such an amazing American Pilgrims community. And I've gotten to be friends with other people, around the world that are involved in the Pilgrim community. Partly, I've been on some podcasts, which I love talking about the Camino, so it's fun. I've been on one in Ireland. I've been on one in Portugal. There's a woman named Diane Wisga who has a wonderful podcast called Women Who Walk, Stories from Women Who Walk. Her last name is Wyzga, I think. And I was on a 2-part podcast with her. So being able to have those conversations, and that those conversations then hopefully can inspire other people, is another way to do this reentry. So doing these talks has always been really a good way for me, because my Camino started really after I got back and was buying an albergue. We took a year and a half to do this, to get visas to live in Europe and get my son enrolled in school in France and buy the building and get the prefecture of Bordeaux to give permission to change this 900-year-old building into an auberge des pèlerins and a gîte, and sell my house on the Cape and everything in it because we're not taking it, give away my pets except for the 2 dogs. And 2 weeks before, my husband had me served with divorce papers. No more albergue, no more house on the Cape, no more furniture, nothing. And that's when my Camino really started. So I didn't know that that's what I was getting prepared for, but my 11-year-old son says, Mom, we're pilgrims, we can handle this. So that's when my Camino really started. And I was on the Camino when I got the final offer for divorce that I'd been battling for 2 years. And I was on the Camino again when I got the final divorce. So I didn't know any of that was coming at me, but all of it ultimately involved the Camino. So we don't know, right? So, hey, it's 9 o'clock exactly. Even though we're an hour ahead, I can hang out a little bit, but I promise to end on time. I hope you will all share this workbook with other people that you know who might want it, even people who haven't gone anywhere yet. I think it's a really good thing to have before you go anywhere too. And I hope you can have conversations with your local chapters and have coffees and talk about these kinds of things. Let's all unmute and have some feedback, because you've been listening to me for a while. Anybody?
This was a great Zoom meeting to have. I really appreciate everyone sharing, and like you said, it brings us back to being part of a community, and I miss that part of, especially during COVID. We don't get to have our meetings here in South Bend, and our group kind of broke up, and now they've kind of tried to put another one back together. So Zoom meetings have become very, very important to stay connected with people who've gone and you can share with. So this was very good.
Hey,
Great.
Susan, just to check your private chat, I sent you a little message a while ago, okay?
Yep, I saw it.
Just FYI, if you want to get a little glimpse.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I come in here? Yeah.
Oh.
I found that the Camino helped really with my faith, and that when I was scared and not knowing whether I was going to have a bed for the night. And I'd had a very bad experience at work beforehand, and it had knocked my confidence a lot. But to go out and do something like that on my own, and just to be trusting and to rely on my faith that God will provide for you when you need, and just that amazing feeling of that confidence that he would, and just that building up and building up as I walked. And although there were hardly any albergues open, there was only one day I actually booked one in advance. I mean, I booked in St. Jean-Pied-de-Port, but I didn't book after that, and except for one time when it was very late and it was getting dark and I had another 5 kilometers to go, and I thought, I've got to be confident that in 5 kilometers. In fact, the man was so surprised when I said I've got 5 kilometers to go and it was dark, and he said, is it just for one? I said, yes, it's just for me. And when I got there, I found out later that there were bears in the woods where I've been walking. I was like,
You didn't know ahead of time, right?
I didn't even know there were. I didn't know there were bears.
John Hartman?
I was just going to use this to leave it to let Bob Masucci know sent him an email. We're both in the Orange County group and Southern California mega group. So that's it.
Okay, good. Anybody? Thank you all for coming. This is always, it's a benefit for me too, to be able to do this. So
Thanks so much, Lisa. This was great.
good to see you, Mel.
Community.
Thank
Lisa,
you.
I just wanted to say thank you, Lisa, for the beautiful sharing. That was really a genuine, heartfelt story that you shared, and so very meaningful, I think, to all of us. Thank you for the opportunity, though, to really get together. It's such a blessing to do that, especially when we're by ourselves, and miss that sense of community.
Mhm.
I think one thing you meant, one line that just jumped out at me that you said earlier on was having something to look forward to on our journey. And I was thinking, what a tremendous feeling it was to leave an albergue each morning in the, just at the early dawn. The light is just coming through, and you're finding your way, but you have no idea what's ahead of you, not a clue. You just know that there's a path to follow, and you keep putting one foot in front of your other. And it is just a tremendous awakening and experience to look around you and to see what there is. Never have I appreciated so much the sky and the earth and the people and just the beauty of each day that was given to us. And that's such a gift,
It
But
really
thank you
is.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd love to get your feedback. If you do use this workbook at any time, we'd love to hear back from you on ways to improve this or make it more user-friendly, or whatever you might want to add to it. Because there's a lot to it. And whether you think that this kind of a workshop is something worth doing.
Oh, yeah.
We've done it in the past a couple times. People usually leave for their Caminos in the spring, and we do it in the fall as a kind of a follow-up. But I do think that there's value in this for people who haven't gone yet to be able to think about these things before they've gone.
So this will all be shared after tonight's meeting, that we can have access to the workbook again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great.
As long as we've got your email, we'll get it back out there.
Okay. So
Yeah.
much to digest. Thank
It
you.
is. Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much. 2 more weeks, we'll talk about the Ignaciano.
Yeah.
All right.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Stay well, stay healthy. Buen camino.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, love you all.
Bye-bye. Bonne nuit.
Bye.